All right. Hot take. You were next. You said that you're over 18 and you disagree with something I got on the board, or you want to talk to me with something I got on the board. What you got, bro?
Yeah, so I'll jump on to the last statement that, God did what Twizzler did. Um, so if you look at the historical accounts in the Bible, any time that there were children involved, and it doesn't even mean just children, but for instance, with Sodom and Gomorrah, there were multiple attempts to where, you know, the person in the story was speaking to the angel of the Lord and was saying, if you can find 10 people that don't have sin in their hearts or sinful or lustful thoughts or any of that stuff, I'm paraphrasing, then would you save them? Yes, if I can find that many, I'll save them. Then he went back and said, oh, please, if you can only find 5, if you can find 1. So multiple times God had, even though he didn't have to, he bargained with humans to say that, hey, even though I know my ways are just and righteous, I don't want anyone to perish. So I will entertain your request. But when I find that there is none that is righteous there, I must do what I must, because God is the epitome of justice and righteousness according to the Bible.
Gotcha.
So,
can I ask you a question? How come he didn't take out Lot then? Because Lot wasn't righteous either.
He didn't take out a lot.
so there was a
of
plan
righteous
for
people.
Lot
Yeah,
and his
user,
family.
you gotta be quiet for a second. Please, I go one more
Correct,
time.
because there's actually,
Go ahead.
so you have to read that story to see the fullness of why that entire city, it wasn't just that they were unrighteous. There was more. They were actually burning children alive. If you know about Baal and, the
That's not
sacrifices
in the
that were
story.
made to that effigy,
That's
that
not in
was
the story.
something. What's that? Are you sure about that? That's not what they were doing in Sodom and Gomorrah and in Babylon?
Babylon didn't even worship Baal. Yeah,
They
Baal.
worshiped many gods. Baal was one of them.
What
in
in,
that
in
time period.
Babylon? Did Babylon even exist in this time period, or was it before or after?
Well, I'm just saying, in that story, I don't want to say that I claim to know that, but are we? I'm saying, can you claim to know that wasn't like what was happening in that time? Because from what my recollection of the story is that it wasn't just that they were unrighteous, but that they were so unrighteous and in filth, living in lusting after one another with no regard for anyone's safety or care or love, and hurting one another so much so that that was the just thing to do. And that's me paraphrasing. I'm sure if you look up the story or the basics, the cliff notes about it, that would be
Yeah, it
what they were
basically
talking about.
yeah, because of wickedness and moral depravity is essentially, like, I understand that's what the story says. The issue that I have with the story is that neither Lot or his daughters were righteous, so they should have been taken out as well, because Lot gave up his daughters to be raped by the men in the city, instead of the angels. And then after the story, the daughters raped their father. So what was the lesson here? None of them
But
were righteous.
no one was listed. It actually says in the Bible that all have fallen short in the glory of God. No, no one is sinless. So it's a matter of, do you believe in Yahweh, the God of the Bible? Do you believe and follow and listen to his instruction? You're not going to be perfect at it, but if you actually serve him and believe him, then you and him have a relationship. Even before Jesus was on the earth and crucified, you had that relationship. So Lot had that relationship, hence why he was speaking, hence why these men came to
So
his door.
Lot, so
They were
Yahweh had
angels,
a
or the angel of the Lord. Again,
okay. So Yahweh had a relationship with someone who would give up his daughters to be raped. That's a pretty shitty relationship. Why would we be homeboys with that guy? Like, if one of my homies told me that
so
you can go ahead and
Yahweh,
rape my 18-year-old daughter,
yeah.
I'm gonna be like, bro, we're not friends no more. What the hell is this?
So you realize that God, even today, somebody who is a child rapist can, in prison, can give their life to Christ,
Right.
repent
That's
of
why
their
I would never
sins,
go
and
to
be
heaven,
saved
because there's rapists,
if
and
they
even Jeffrey
follow.
Dahmer is up there. Why would I live forever with that guy?
Can I?
Well, it's not that he's up there. You would have to follow because you're a new being born again. You've heard the born again Christian. When you're born again, the old you has died and the new you is in Christ. So you are no longer that person. Even though the people on this earth see you as that person, you are no longer that person to Jesus. He has paid the
Right.
debt for the
Okay.
sins that you did.
Can I
Okay.
That's the
So
ultimate
interject as a
sacrifice.
female?
Give me one second.
Okay.
Okay, so let me get this straight. All right, so how about someone like me who doesn't accept this whole Christ story? Am I gonna go ahead and get and suffer forever?
So what it says in the Bible is that God will essentially give everyone the choice to hear of him and to ask him. And he says, you know, essentially, if you ask for me to show myself to
Okay,
you,
I've
I
asked for
will.
years and I never got anything.
And
So what's next?
not
The
in
spiritual sense. I know.
not in the yeah, in the spiritual, not like, I mean, it could happen in the literal sense, but I mean, who would believe you, right? But let's just say that it happened in the, you know, as it is in the spiritual sense, in what we might call what's the word when you see like,
Delusions.
you hear like uh no, when you hear like
Auditory.
synchronicity,
Mhm.
right? People say synchronicities. So like, you know, you say oh God, give me a sign, you know, I'm so tired, and then you see a sign on the back of a truck 2 minutes later that says tired, you know, call da da da. Like that's like a synchronicity, or what some people would call coincidence. But what people would call coincidence, it happens very, very often, and that's because we as believers believe that the Holy Spirit works in ways like that, where you would see it as, some people would see it as coincidence, others know in their heart, because of the, no one else could have known.
What will
For instance, I'll give you a
I
quick
get
little
that because my sister talks about it all the time. But what's the
Okay.
difference? What's the difference between that and
Okay.
what my grandmother practiced? My grandmother was a Haitian voodoo practitioner, right? And she said that she did that all the time. So does that make her? Oh, so voodoo. Okay,
Voodoo's
so I
very
should go
real.
ahead and convert to voodoo. Why should I not convert to voodoo then?
No, because it states in the Bible why witchcraft
Voodoo is a
of
religion.
Satan,
Right. So
and
why
it's
is
evil.
why is Haitian voodoo evil when it got my ancestors out of slavery?
So the so okay. So do you think that, I'll answer that with like a question, just to kind of like a thought process. Do you believe that you can use dark forces for a good deed?
Yeah.
So that's essentially what I'm saying is, you can pray. Let's say, let's take into the account and pretend here that, you know,
Here's-
you believe Satan is real. You
I
could
got you.
use his
Let me
powers
let me
to do that.
let me point something out though, and Brenda already said it. What makes
Mm-hmm.
voodoo a dark force? Why isn't it a good force?
Well, you have to look at it from the Judeo-Christian
Perspective. Right, but why is that perspective more important than my ancestors' perspective? My ancestors weren't in Israel.
Well, you didn't. It said to the Gospels to go and preach the gospel
world.
throughout the whole world. So
Understood. But my question would be is, why are my ancestors' practices evil, but these foreign people who took over my ancestors' land and enslaved them are the good ones?
Well, I wouldn't say that they're good, because, you know, what Jesus says does not, what they did is not supported by Jesus's words.
I mean, it's supported by Yahweh.
Well, where do you, what would you say? What, slavery?
Yep.
So in the time, I would say to read a book by, I believe is William Webb. It's called Women, Slaves, and I'll say Bromos Meshuals, because I don't know if you could say that on here or not, but you know the word.
Yeah, I know the
That
person.
book-
You just gotta say rainbow because of TikTok purposes. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
So that book goes into how the culture at the time was, and how it shifted, and what things shifted with the Gospels, and as far as not shifted in the basis of it, because he was like, in the Bible you would read that it was not anything like, it was like, okay, if you have a slave, you must not mistreat your slave, or whatever. I don't know if I can say that word, but
You can still say
you must.
slave.
Yeah,
There's
you
a
must.
slave
You can't.
Bible in D.C.
You can't
in the
mistreat your
museum.
slave. You can't kill your slave. Essentially stating that you cannot like harm your slave.
I mean, in Exodus 21, it does say that you can
Time.
beat them, and
That
if
was
they
the
don't,
culture of the time.
right? I mean, in Exodus 21, it does says that you can beat them, you know, and if they don't unalive within the next couple of days, then you know you're fine because the slave is your property. That's pretty gross and pretty awful. That's exactly
Mhm.
But
what my ancestors went through. Actually, as a matter of
but
fact.
can I make an interjection?
Yeah. Go ahead, user. I'm sorry. Well, let's go back to you.
Okay.
Then I'll get to everyone else.
This country was founded by basically men that were Masons, okay, and that's a whole different thing. George Washington, Andrew Jackson, all of them were Masons. That's a whole different thing. We've been told that this country was founded upon Christian ways. Yeah, the people may have been Christian or followers, but the establishment and the people that ran the establishment and made the rules that we've always had to fight against, they were not. Okay, they were Masons. They had their own little deal going on, their own beliefs going on, which are not like, I don't think they're very proactive towards what the God of our being resonates. And if we're trying to understand God, we're not going to understand God. God is bigger. His whole persona, his thought pattern, everything is way, way, way beyond what we can ever conceive. His ways are way
His
beyond
ways are
whatever we
higher
can
than our
conceive.
ways.
Yeah, way higher.
Hmm.
And we're not going to be able to understand this. This is a being that we can't even
Can I?
not only
Yeah.
understand, but we can't
I'm
comprehend it. We
sorry,
can't
user.
Hold on, hold
User,
on.
user. Give me a second. I'm sorry. Everybody pause. Everybody
No,
pause.
I just wanted to
I
ask a question for
Yeah,
user and
I got you, Brenda. Give me one moment, all right? I did want to go one at a time. I didn't want to be panel style, but that's why I had to interject for a
Yeah,
second,
yeah.
user.
so fine.
Brenda, I do know you got you got a question, but after that question, I'm gonna finish up with hot take, and then I'm gonna go to everyone else. All right, go ahead, Brenda.
Yeah, the question was actually for both user slash hot take. And don't take it personally. It's just I'm curious. Um, for the religion purposes, are we discussing this as like the American version of Christianity, OG Christianity, or overall? Because there's a big difference between how Protestants came about and what they are now. So, for both of you, when you learn about Christianity, have you learned about what Christians look like outside of your like church or group? And
Or
if
like a Western
not,
cultural perspective.
exactly. And if not, don't you think that's like a really big misstep? Like, why would the church that's supposed to talk about God in every image only presenting one image?
What do you mean, one image?
Well, it's a white image, right? Like when we learn about God in Africa, it is very different. I learned this when I was 14 when I moved to the US. Here, God is seen as above everyone. It is not a part of the community. We learn the New Testament first, and we go back to Old Testament to learn about the sin that caused the point. But I learned that in the US, they do it the opposite way. It's all very much guilt and judgment versus acts of service. And so when I challenge people to think about that, like, why is missionary pushed for you to push people to believe in God and not for you to find out why there's poverty and all these issues? To me, it seems a bit odd that when I challenge that notion, people say they've never even thought about how their church builds their program.
Well, I'll give
That's
you
what
my church.
that's what I'm saying about the distinction between who this country was run by and who came into this country, and they're fleeing from religious persecution. But the people that are in charge, the people that have always been in charge, who are bloodlines of everybody else who's been in charge for God knows how many years, they are the people that had this other agenda, okay? But it's not your regular people, okay, that have this agenda. So you're talking about, and I agree with you, you're talking about two different things. God is within us, God is around us, God is us, we are God, we are his children,
Could I
okay?
interject for
But
a quick sec?
Yeah, because I got about 1 more minute with you, then I got to go ahead and move on. Go ahead and say what you're gonna say, bro.
Okay. Yeah, so all I would say, I mean, that's a whole nother topic they're talking about.
Mhm.
I look at the Bible as a whole, from beginning to end. I even believe that some of the apocrypha has good nuggets in there of truth. I think it's a little muddy, which is why part reason why it's not in the canonized version, but there is actually a lot of nuggets of truth in there, I believe. But I just want to say for hosts, there's so much more I could talk to you about, but I know you got a lot to talk about, so I respect that. And as far as, why you should believe in God, man, I just say, if you would, for me, I know you don't know me, and I know you said you've done this a million times, but if you actually, with an open heart and no contempt, no condescension, ask Jesus to do whatever with his will to show him to
I
you
agree.
in your life, do it wholeheartedly. Do it. And I believe, with my beliefs and my faith, he will show himself to you unlike you've ever seen
I
with anyone
agree.
else. So I'm gonna
Gotcha.
pray that in Jesus' name, and I wish you the best, brother.
No problem. Appreciate you being up. But I actually have done that plenty of times.
I
All
have
right.